Like many of you, we battled depression during life's ups and downs.
Music has always been the one thing that we could rely on to get us through the tough times that we all face.
Follow us on our journey as we discuss the healing power of music,
Interview bands,
break down genres,
review band biographies,
and more.
This is the When Words Fail
Music Speaks podcast
with Blake Mosley
and James Cox.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of When Words Fail, Music Speaks. I have James here, Blake, as you guys know me, or Brosley. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope your Christmas was good. We have some very special guests with us today that we have the pleasure of sitting down and just kind of talking about music with. Very excited about this. So, but before we get them on here, we're just going to tell you about them real quick. FMA and 12 Gauge are a multi-award winning father and son rap duo from Preston, United Kingdom, made up of Matthew and Callum Bennett. The project initially began in 2013 as a way of helping Callum's confidence, but snowballed into something that neither of them could have predicted. Their music is built around creative lyrics and tightly woven, imaginative dual vocals, combining the aggression of metal and the verbal skills of hip-hop with the energy of youth and the experience of age. They create hybrid songs that are a fusion of high-energy rap, electronic, metal, and dance music. They have performed all over the country, written for award-winning TV shows and films, and have been featured on the TV Asahi in Japan and other worldwide streaming services. In 2019, they were chosen to be the face of the Give Us a Break anti-bullying campaign, and their charity song Spectrum gained nationwide coverage. A common phrase heard at any of their performances is, "I don't normally like rap, but I like that." Energy, skill, and passion transcends genres. So without any further ado, please welcome FMA and 12 Gauge to the show. How you doing, guys?
Hi, we're
Doing
cool.
good.
We need a huge ovation after all that.
I know.
Yeah. We also need to add at the end that we're both really annoying to kind of make up for all the big-headedness.
Yeah, we do. We need
Yeah.
we
Really
need something
annoying.
at the end.
Yeah. They're also really annoying.
So,
Well, you didn't hear it from me, so.
Okay.
Oh no.
so let me ask you this. Hearing that I don't know how much you heard of that, whether it's 20 times or just hearing it for the first time. Did y'all think that you would do this much in this short amount of time? Being a like a rap group.
I don't know where to start. Do you want to go first, Callum, and explain?
Yeah.
Because this is such a complicated and huge story. Also,
Okay.
I've got a really naughty cat who's trying her best to be as noisy as possible and
Oh,
sit
no.
on all my
It's
work.
okay.
Oh, she's fine.
So just so you know, if you hear anything or I disappear off camera, it's because she's either throwing up somewhere or she's sat on my work.
I got you.
Yep.
But yeah, sorry, go on, Callum.
Oh, yeah.
So we kind of started. So pretty much this whole thing. It's a big story. So when my dad was younger than he is now, he was in a band called For My Anger. That's where the FMA comes from, like the abbreviation. And pretty much they were hardcore heavy metal, and they used to gig around Preston and they did tours and stuff like that. And then how you put it, Dad, is that an evil record producer came along and promised them the world, and then everything fell through, and it kind of sucked the heart out of the band and kind of destroyed his love for music. Simultaneously, while that's happening, I've watched him on stage as a kid, 5 or 6, and I fall in love with the idea of being a musician. I don't know what I want to do yet, but I love the idea of being on a stage and just the power that you have and all of that stuff. And it was whoa, that's what I want to do. So then throughout all of my childhood and young teenage years, I'm thinking, what can I do? I wanted to be a DJ at one point. I wanted to learn how to play the guitar, but all those things take patience, which teenagers don't have. Well, I didn't have as a teenager. Some do. So I never really, I knew I wanted to perform, and I knew I wanted to perform with my dad. That was always the thing. I remember really distinctly as a teenager thinking, I should go away and learn how to play guitar and write a song and then randomly just turn up and play the song for him, and he'll be well impressed. Or if I'm a DJ, imagine if I was a DJ in his band and all this other stuff, like, teenage kid sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was a day when we were driving somewhere. I forget where it was, but my dad was in the car and they played Eminem. And in my head, I just started to fall in love with rap. And I just loved rap. And then one of my friends at school was like, "Oh yeah, there's learn how to rap lessons." And me being the cocky teenager that I am, I'm there like, "I already know how to rap, mate." Had no idea how to do it, but being the cocky teenager, I was like, "Yeah, I know how to rap."
Yeah.
And then on the bus back, I remember I had a notebook in my pocket, and I just started writing in the notebook, and that became like my obsession. Like I used to sit in the back room listening to like DMX, like his like first album, and just writing. And then like I found MOP and all this other stuff, and I just kept writing. And that was what kind of got me through being a teenager. And then I had to move in with my dad. And to me, at that point in time, because of everything that had happened when I was a kid, it was like having access to Eminem in my living room. So every day it'd be, "Dad, I found this beat. Dad, listen to this. Dad, I've done this. Dad. So essentially, I kind of bullied him into music, like coming back into music. I just kept annoying him until he felt the need to do it. And then my mum approached us to do a gig for my like confidence at that time. I had a really bad stutter at that time. And she approached us to do this gig to help with my confidence, and it was meant to be a one-time gig, and it pretty much snowballed, like we said, like in the intro. It just snowballed from there. Do you want to talk for a bit, Dad? I feel like I've talked a lot.
Callum was just having issues when he was a teenager and stuff, and like we're going back down another route now. So when I was younger, I had a very difficult time. I'm autistic, and I was diagnosed at the age of 36. But I didn't know, obviously, I didn't know this when I was a teenager. And so when I was a teenager, I found alcohol. It was like the most important thing in the world, because suddenly the world became easy, and all these sensory issues that I had, that I didn't know I had because I thought everyone felt the same. It eased them all, and it made talking to people so much easier. And so I just went mad. I have such an obsessive brain. If something gets into my brain, it just becomes like, that's the thing that I have to think about and do. And so by the age of 21, I was like almost dead in rehab. And I'd gone to rehab like for alcohol addiction. And I was in rehab, and like this is real rehab, not the celebrity rehab. So I was there for 1.5 years. That's a record as well in that rehab. No one's ever been there for as long as I have. But then they let me out. Like when I not let me out, but when I came out, I moved into this flat here. But my addiction issues still carried on. They'd like reprogrammed my brain when it came to alcohol, but the addictions didn't stop because I didn't know I was autistic. And so that carried on and carried on and carried on and carried on. And then when Callum came to live with me, it's because Callum was having issues as well, which was similar to what I'd had. And so it was like, I knew exactly what to do with Callum because I did exactly what should have been done with me, which is someone should have just grabbed me and just been like, "You're not getting out of my sight, and I'm going to teach you things, not just tell things." It was like, that's the important thing about like getting better. You need to learn why, how. Do you know what I mean? It's not just one thing. It's not like, "Oh, don't drink because it's bad." It's like, don't drink because you're drinking to hide something, which then in turn damages something. And it's like this whole mass of things, and people don't like explain about it all. So I did this with Callum, but then he came to live with me, and like he said, he started doing all these raps and things to me. And I'd even said to my friend, "Yeah, he's going to end up getting me back into music, I know." And then this gig came about, this gig offer. And like I said, me and like Callum said, we just wrote these songs, and it was just meant to be a one-time thing. But the crowd, they were instantly into it. Like a father and a son, the energy on stage is unlike anything else because of the chemistry and the bond. So you've got that, but then because we're the same, me and Callum are the same, like same blood, we work with each other in a way that I've never worked with anyone before. Right. And so it just, like, we did that, and then we just kept doing stuff. But like during that time, I was still really lonely. I found it hard to make friends. And then all of a sudden, at the age of 36, I was diagnosed with autism, and everything suddenly made sense. And I understood how important creativity was to me and why these songs and these performances were so important to me. And they're also so important to Callum. It's our way of like finding purpose within this world and dealing with the stuff that goes on in our heads, because I've given Callum a lot of talent and a lot of skill that I've handed down, but I've also handed down a lot of negative things like in my mind, like the obsessiveness or the self-esteem issues and things. Callum's inherited all of them. And so we both use creativity and our songs and any creation that we make as a way of like just therapy and making ourselves feel good and like feeling like we belong in the world. So yeah, so we released 2 EPs and we released an album, and now we're working on our second album. Yeah, and that takes us up to here now.
Yeah, that is awesome. And like a common theme on this show that we're 200 something episodes into it now, and a common thing that comes up in just about every episode is like the healing power that music can have, and kind of pulling you out of those spots and kind of making sense of things when they just don't seem to make sense, no matter how hard you try. And that's a really beautiful story. Like I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you guys explain that. That's amazing.
Thank you. It gets more beautiful.
You.
There's like these bits like with rainbows where we're dancing on rainbows, aren't we, Callum, and like leaping across the lily pads and singing and stuff. But we left them out because we don't have time for that right now.
Right? Yeah. No, there's no time for all the lily pads. I get
it. But there's something special between the son and the father, because I'm more connected to my dad. And my mom loves that about us. She would rather me be more connected to him than her, which I totally understand. Just some kind of connect, and it's very powerful that you said that you don't want Callum to be like you were back then. You know, you need some kind of reinforcement. Say, hey man, that's not the way to go. You need to come over here. Let's do it. You know, that's so great. I love that about y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, but it's like, oh, sorry, we're going down a different route, but it's like, and my cat, just hold on. I know you should be up to something. Go on, Jack.
Yeah. I don't let them out, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think that's one thing that's missing from a lot of parenting and stuff these days. It's like people, rather than treating the children as equals, there's this disconnect. And I think it's come through technology and all sorts of things. And it's like there are definite lines between generations now. And it's like you need to bridge those gaps to connect with your children, but people don't do it. It's like there's adults and then there's kids. All the kids are just misbehaving, and yet the adults never ever once think, yeah, I used to do that when I was that age. And they don't ever bring themselves down to that level and think, why are you doing that? Oh yeah, I identify with that. It's for some reason, it's like there's this weird point where people pass and they're like, yeah, it's just weird because I've never ever forgotten how to be a child ever.
Right. Yeah. So, Callum, let me ask you this: when you when your moment of clarity was, I want to do this with my dad. Did you have other dreams before that happened? Because as a young boy or young daughter, we dream about going to the stars, going to the moon. You know, I wanted to be like a race car driver, this and this and this and this. You know, but did you have any other aspirations before music took your life? Or I guess
genuinely, I can't remember anything else. Like I remember being in like primary school, like the youngest school in England and the UK, and making like this weird a cappella rock tribute thing with like 4 of my mates, and we were this like rock band in like school, and it was called like Rock Like the Stone, which was a name that Dad gave me, and I remember that. So it's like it's this really weird through line when I look back that music and wanting to be involved in it has always been there. I just never knew how. And yeah, and it has just been a constant, like Dad said, like creativity, like even if it's I was like making up games and like playing like games and stuff like that. It was always creative and it was always to do with music.
Yeah.
Same question for Matthew. Did you have other like aspirations, or did you like music is it?
I wanted to be a ghost hunter.
Oh, cool.
When I was 12 years old, I found a book in my library on all paranormal things, and a lot of it was fake. And like, so it started off a lifelong love of the paranormal. And so like when I was younger, I'd be like, oh yeah, I wanna go and investigate all these things because like I have this also a fascination with being scared, like safe scared, not real scared. So I love watching horror films and stuff like that because it's not real, and it's like that's so much fun. Real life fear, that's a different thing. But like there's this like, yeah, I've always loved that. But that but then when I was 13, I discovered first it was Alice Cooper, then it was Guns N' Roses, then it was Nirvana, and then from that point Smashing Pumpkins, and then it was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to play guitar and I want to sing. And so I started a band and I played guitar and sang, but not sang, screamed because I can't hold a tune. But then I was like, I can't do both these things to the level that I want them to do. So I just scrapped the guitar and I just started focusing on vocals, and from there it like grew. But I'd always, before that point, loved words. So I loved writing stories and all these things, and I loved horror. And horror is a huge thing that keeps coming back into my lyrics and all sorts of things. I love being able to write lines that make you feel just odd, like not like Cannibal Corpse where it's just obvious on the nose all the way through, but like if you can write something which is just off, like the Uncanny Valley, but like with words, if you can do that and create these moments which keep repeating, you can create real feelings of unease and stuff in so it's a love of writing, it's a love of music, it's just a love of creating things.
Going back to what you said before, I got two questions from what you said before. What is your favorite scary movie of all time?
You can't ask that question because that's like saying what's your favorite video game of all time. It's not one. I can give you a list. I can give you a few that I consider great.
Give me like three.
Sure.
Three. Yeah. Well, okay. We'll talk about not favorites. We'll talk. I don't know. Oh, right. Okay. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think, is just an absolute masterpiece because if you go back and watch that to see what's actually in it, there's no gore really anywhere. There's no real disgusting things or all, but you come out with it with such an ugly feeling that it's just like so immense. And I also love their bravery, like shooting a lot of it in the daylight. I love that because like there's like all these really easy tricks in scary movies, like make people jump, put them in the dark, use music, and it's like Chainsaw Massacre just got rid of all that. Because it's like the bit where he's chasing her through the woods and the only soundtrack is a chainsaw and her screaming. It's like, what the hell? After I watched that with my brother for the first time, we were both it was so funny because at the end of it, we were like, what the hell are we watching? So Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There is a BBC like pseudo documentary called Ghostwatch. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
It came out before Blair Witch. It's the first ever TV thing that said it was true when it was on. And this thing affected me more than anything else because like this was around when I was 12 and I'd got into ghosts, and so I was reading all these books, and one of these stories was the Enfield poltergeist about two young girls, and like they were haunted. And then Ghostwatch was this BBC pseudo documentary, so it had all these real presenters, but it was all scripted, and it was so cleverly done. But they based the story on the Enfield poltergeist. So when I saw these two girls and the mum, I thought we really were in the Enfield poltergeist, and it wasn't at any point said that it was a lie. And so as the thing went on, it just got scarier and scarier and scarier. And because I believed in that stuff, and I believe what I was watching was real, it took me to a place of terror that I've never ever experienced before, and it was like it's permanently like affected me. But if you get a chance, watch Ghostwatch, a BBC pseudo documentary. So Ghostwatch, Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
that's two.
And that's two. I'm stuck now.
Next kill him. So get ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, all right.
Okay, right. We'll go with The Grudge. It's not these three. I wouldn't necessarily say. Oh, it's so hard. This question is so difficult. The Grudge. I'm choosing The Grudge because every time I watch it, it's just as scary. It always creeps me out. There's just something about The Grudge which is just a really, really frightening film. But I could list so many more for so many different reasons. But I'm going with those three.
There you go.
Another question before we get to Caleb section. Now you mentioned a band that is near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to know.
I knew you were going to come back to that.
how important it is for me, and I hope to God it's important for you too. Nirvana.
Yes.
So I'm gonna ask you the you're probably gonna hit me for this again, but whatever. What's your favorite Nirvana song? Mine is
Yes, I've got it.
In Bloom.
In Bloom. No, mine's Scentless Apprentice.
Nice, yeah.
I just love how noisy and horrible that song is. I absolutely love it. Like it's just, it's like an assault on your senses. And like I'd listened to all Nirvana stuff up until that point, and that was when I was like, "Wow, this is like I love this. I love how ugly it sounds."
Right.
Because they made a neutral, didn't they, to just mess with everyone? Because like Nevermind had propelled them to like mainstream success. So they made the most noisy, ugly album that they could. And I think Scentless Apprentice is just absolute. It's a beautiful masterpiece of noise. Yeah, I really love that song.
Because I never heard or seen any other band besides Nirvana that can literally single-handedly take out one genre, and that genre was hair metal. Hair metal went out, New Grunge came in, and boom.
I do remember, like, the first time I ever heard Teen Spirit on MTV, I genuinely got goosebumps and tingles, and I've never ever felt that with another song ever again. It was like the first time I heard it, I was like, "What the hell? This is just immense!" Like that down, 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 and it was just like it created a feeling in me that no song has ever created before. It was just, it was so weird. It's like, it was madness.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite horror movie. 3 favorite horror movies. And then the Nirvana song. I mean, if you like Nirvana.
I don't know if you're a Nirvana fan or you can.
I've only ever heard what you've played me, and I think it was, what was it? Sleepless Apprentice? Is that it? You played it.
Apprentice. Senseless Apprentice.
Okay.
But then there's also Milk It. I really love Milk It too. Right, okay, yeah.
They're all great.
No, Scentless Apprentice because of a rhythm. I love rhythm in music. Like, dun, 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 dun. That's Scentless Apprentice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But so horror movies though, my 3 would probably be, I should have been thinking about this really. Wreck, if you've ever seen that.
I was going to choose Wreck, Callum, but then I was like, no, I'm choosing.
That's the best. I love that one. That's kind of like a stalkerish, kind of creepy, but yeah, man. Yeah. Good pick.
Yeah, and yes, there's Wreck, there's the Alien as well, the original Alien.
I would. Sorry, I'll shut up. Just let you talk. Sorry.
Yeah, Dad. I'm just picking up everything that you left.
I know, no, but part of me wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know if I consider Alien or Aliens horror films.
Yeah, but that's because it's so far removed from it.
Alien was on the ship and that was super scary, so that would be a horror movie.
Yeah, I know, but like, I'm interrupting Callum. Callum, you carry on. I'll just keep talking over you. I'm sorry.
And the final one.
The Thing by John Carpenter.
That was what I was going to say. I was literally just about to say.
Yeah.
You should have given me 10. I feel robbed.
I'm sorry.
Feel robbed.
We'll have you back next time, and we can give you 20 of them.
There are also 2 that I would also like to say, just for the people watching, if they're into horror movies, or both of you if you've not seen them. The first one is Lake Mungo.
Oh, Lake Mungo is immense. Yeah. Sorry, Callum. Oh my god.
And the second one is The Host. It's a British horror movie that was made.
Oh, yeah.
I should have gave you 20, man. I should.
You should have. Yeah,
really
The Host. The Host is a horror film made over Zoom. Like they made it during lockdown.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
it's absolutely.
They filmed it during lockdown in 2020. Yeah, the whole thing is filmed on. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's well impressive. Is that
honestly? It is also about that film has given me this like fear of Zoom calls. Whenever I'm in a Zoom call,
weird, right?
Yeah. Well, it's also that thing where I feel like it uses it really well, that fear of you're not in the same place. So you could be like shouting at someone saying something's behind you, and like if they're muted or their like computer's messing up, they don't know.
Right.
And it's like that whole thing of like right now, it's like I saw the door move behind Dad. It's like that type of horror.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
It's a cat. It's my frigging cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the cat. It is the
We
cat.
think it's the cat.
But you know,
We hope it's the
yeah,
cat.
yeah. Let's just
Yeah,
pretend.
yeah. So, okay, so I want to ask you this. So what was it like growing up for you? And where did you find music? Or did music find you?
Me or Callum?
You.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. My dad's always been a massive music fan, so he used to play stuff to me ever since I was little, like really, really young, like 2 or 3, and he'd play like tracks from a band called Marillion, which was a prog rock band in the 80s. And they really influenced me. But he'd play like little bits of songs, and I'd be like, "Oh, I love that bit," and I love that bit, and so like it was something that was always there. And then my mum would listen to like Iron Maiden albums and Meatloaf albums like every weekend when we were all tidy in the house, and we'd listen to them all. And then War of the Worlds, like that was just terrifying as well. But so like music's always been there. So yeah, it's always been a part of my life. My dad kind of gave me of music, and my mum loved it as well. So it was never ever, it was always just a part of everything. And when I started having these dreams of wanting to be a guitarist or whatever, I think everyone just thought I was being silly and things. But yeah, so it's always been there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the first rap song that you heard that you fell in love with? Because I know
rap song.
Hill Gang came out. Like did they record the very very first rap song, the Sugar Hill Gang, or am I mistaken?
Sugar Hill
I
Gang.
don't know.
It was either him or Grandmaster.
I think they are credited as that. Well, if it's not that one,
you mean the first pop one? You mean the first like mainstream
like
one? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
yeah, because it was it was alive before then, but they're like
right,
that's the one that put it on the map.
Yeah.
No, my first rap song. I don't know what my first rap song was. It was, I don't know, because like my first rap band that I got into was Onyx. But I think before that point, there was Will Smith with Boom Shape Room and MC Hammer with Can't Touch Us. So I must have heard them before and loved them. But there was something about rap. Every time I heard people rapping, because even Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose kind of rapped. If you like look back at his lyrics, he wasn't following melodies, he was following flow patterns. He was doing it with notes, but like it wasn't ever simple, and it was always really cool. So I always thought, so like Guns N' Roses were one of the first things that I got into. But like, yeah, I've always loved like the feeling that it creates when you get really tight rhymes, and it kind of draws you along. So, but yeah, Onyx was my first rap act that I really, really loved.
Yeah, because you're right. Because then, like Paradise City, he kind of raps the raps the raps the verse. Yeah,
it's because and I found that strange that no one really mentions it, but like he did, like it wasn't just normal singing what he did.
Right. Tell him how like what was like. Okay, so you grew up with your dad, of course, and he played music for you, right? Which artist did you fall in love with that he actually played for you, I guess?
Oh, well, what Dad played for me, like this is very weird. Like, as a kid, like the music that I kind of got secondhand exposed to. Well, what I'd like to say is Dad influenced what I create now. Because he played me like Slipknot's like self-titled EP. And he played me Onyx when I was like a kid. So like I was like, aggressive, angry over everything. If it isn't angry, I don't like it. And then I had my mum, and my mum loved Kate Bush and Tori Amos, and like what my mum used to do, and I think it's like the sweetest thing ever, is that she would hear a song on the radio and she'd love that song. So she'd go out and buy the album to listen to that song. So when I was a kid, I had like Wu-Tang Clan greatest hits because she liked Gravel Pit. She'd never listened to the rest of the album, but she loved Gravel Pit. And like there was like what was it, Antichrist Superstar with like Marilyn Manson, because she just liked beautiful people. But but it allowed me to like hear all of these albums and all of this stuff all the time. So like mine and dad's like what we enjoyed like when I was a kid, it was very sort of centered around what dad enjoyed. Like I loved metal and I loved Onyx. I didn't like rap, but I loved Onyx. And then as time went on, like I said, I heard Eminem, and then rap became more prominent. And then that was when my mum started randomly going to CD shops and coming home, and she'd bought me just rap CDs.
Yeah.
So like I came home one day from like high school and I had like Cypress Hill greatest hits on the table.
Yeah.
And like I'm like 14, and then the first song is like hits from a bong, and I'm like, Mum, what have you
What
bought
is
me?
this? Right.
Yeah, exactly. And like what my mum said was she didn't want to be kind of linking into what dad was saying about like looking down on kids and having this like degree of separation when you're a parent.
Sure.
Right.
Like one thing my mum never did, and I will completely credit her for it, is when I was listening to all of this really hardcore gangster rap or this really heavy angry metal, she never came in the back room and told me to shut up and go upstairs.
Yeah.
She'd like wait until I was gone and then I don't know, listen to like orchestral music and be like, thank God he's gone. But but what she decided to do, which I thought was lovely, was she thought if I loved rap that much, I'm going to buy him as much varied stuff from as many different artists as I can. So that was how I first heard like Cypress Hill, Wu-Tang Clan and Jurassic 5 and all these people that I would have never heard if my mum hadn't just randomly went to a shop and went, you know what, I'm going to get Callum this, or I'm going to get him this. And that led, I think, to me being a lot more of a rap-centered fan than dad is. Because I see dad being on like the metal side, like FMA. I keep calling you dad. FMA.
It's
FMA.
fine. Son.
There you go. Yeah. So FMA, pretty much, like I see him as having all this knowledge of all metal, which I don't really have, but I have like extensive knowledge of all of these like rappers and underground rappers. That whenever I play FMA, I love his reaction to it, which is like, I'm bored. They're not doing anything interesting. I'm bored. But I'm there like, have you not heard the rhyme scheme? You're not listening to what I'm hearing. And that's kind of how I see also the band working as well. That's how I see, we get that really nice sort of middle ground where it isn't, I'd say, so metal that it's like alienating rap fans, and it's not so rap that it's alienating every other fan who doesn't, really like that stuff. It's like this like really perfect middle ground.
Right.
Yeah, I see what we do as metal without the metal. It's like it's all about the energy that you create, and that's what music's about. And if you've got that energy, then it don't really matter what sounds are behind it.
That's right. Exactly right. And I think that's so true across every single genre, subgenre that you can throw out there. Is it doesn't necessarily have to be cookie cutter, everything exactly the same. You can have a punk rock song that doesn't sound like a punk rock song as long as the attitude is there, as long as the heart is there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's all about passion and like love and energy. And it's like there's so much of that gone nowadays because it's just a product that's sent out. And it's like that's what I get. That's what Callum's talking about when he shows me stuff. It's like, where is that thing that like grabs me and back? That's what I don't feel in what Callum's showing me. So what I'm saying there, Callum, is your music shit.
Thanks, Dad.
You heard it here.
Don't mention it.
But Callum, what I loved about you was you mentioned a band that hasn't been talked to in several years that I think, right? That band is Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh man,
I wasn't the biggest fan, but I respected them because they were like 18 guys on one stage. I'm like, oh yeah, great. But see, what I'm most mad about them is, they recorded, I don't know if Blake wants to look at, but they recorded their latest album that won't be released until 80 years from now, or like 10 years ago.
Something weird about that.
I still hate that guy. I forget what the story was, but there's like a millionaire out there who's like bought what was it? It was like the unreleased demo album, and it was like the sequel.
the full album.
Yeah.
He bought it
Yeah.
for $1 million.
Yeah, and
He bought
he's got it.
and then
He's got it in like a safe, hasn't he? And he said that like it doesn't get released until he dies.
What an
Or
idiot.
something like that.
Yeah, I know, right? It's
It's really sad. Yeah.
And the most upsetting thing is they did the song with Cher. That's how it's so great. And I wanted now, I guess we gotta wait until he dies or 8 years goes by. And
that's
whichever one.
Awful.
Yeah. Some of us probably won't be able to experience that, unfortunately, but
no, that's really, really sad.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
And I don't think I'll walk with this ever again when I'm 80 years old or something, you know.
Yeah.
Show off the whip.
Show off the whip, but Wu-Tang Clan, I don't think they're forgotten. I just think that they're a memorable relic that needs to be back in, get back in the game again.
That's the thing. Which
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. It's all right, mate. Sorry. Well, what I think is like really cool about like just music in general and genres and creating anything. And this is why, like, I find it really annoying when like people start out and people like, oh yeah, you sound like X person or you sound like this person, because nothing at this point with creativity in any form, nothing is like truly original.
Right.
And you can always see like through lines. Like, I mean, like no one at this point in rap or lyricism in general is going to find a word that has not been rhymed. It's just not going to happen. So when there's like rappers out there who are there like, oh yeah, he stole my idea, he stole my thing, and they're getting like really annoyed of these like minuscule things, and I'm there like, mate, we all just write songs and it's all been done. Go on.
If you know multiple languages and you can write a rap where you're changing language from word to word and word, I don't think anyone's done that. That would be cool. And it's all rhyming and it makes sense. That would be immense.
Right.
Yeah. Would be. now just
there you go.
Learn how to fluently speak every language on the planet.
I will. No problem.
Most
code is part of it as well.
Yeah.
Just everything.
Rhyme in binary.
Yes.
Yeah, but and it's that thing. Like I forget who I was talking to about it, but it wasn't a rap fan, and I was talking about the Notorious B.I.G. Tupac East Coast versus West Coast thing, because they just could not comprehend how musicians get that angry at each other that something like that can kick off. So then I explained like loosely, because I mean I'm from England, I loosely explained like, oh yeah, it was also intrinsically entwined with like gang culture and all that stuff, but also what you have to realize, like I was saying to them, is that rap, for some reason, people treat it like a sport. So it's like compared to like metal, if like I don't know, one rock or metal band said, I don't like this other metal band, odds are you may hear about it in an interview and it's going to be like, yeah, they're shit, I don't like the music. That's probably going to be the end of it.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas with like rap, I find it so kind of like fascinating and odd is that someone can say one little thing in an interview, or there can be something like subliminal in a verse, and then another rapper will then create 5 songs back to back, having like, having a go at his mum, having a go at this, having a go at that, and then it escalates to real life, and then it becomes like something else, and then it's like Cruise, and it's like all this stuff. And I just find it like so insane, because the thing I see rap as now, after listening to a metric shit ton of it, is that it's like I see it as a medium where it's like you could be like gangster rap as fuck, and you could talk about the poverty-stricken area that you lived in and you got out of, or you could just rap about, I don't know, a corner shop and going and buying bread, or you could like, there's like storytellers, like even Slick Rick used to be like the original like storyteller, rapper and shit like that. And there's that part of me where I'm there like, why are we also simultaneously egotistical and fragile at the same time? That if you think someone's dissed you subliminally in the fourth bar of a verse, you're going to be there like, oh my God, that's it. I'm going to fucking lose my mind. Shit.
Right.
And I'm just like, it's just art and music. And
yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
you're MGK versus Eminem, and
oh God, mate.
right back. Like I don't, but yeah. But going back to what you said about artists stealing other stuff is like you really can't steal any stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like verbatim, because
Oh
music's
yeah.
been around for years, and there's so many stuff you can add on to music, take away from music. Like because I remember some boy band what's it and they had what's sounded like the intro for some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard, and they were arguing about that, and then the drummer's like, I'm not gonna show them. There's too many entries to these to actually show them, because
yeah,
like,
exactly.
you have 24 frets, 6 strings. You could do like so
yeah. There's only so many.
Yeah, there's only so much. It's just your view and your take on how it's meant to be.
Right.
It's just mad. Yeah, because I heard like a new metal song, like a recent metal song the other day, which sounded like Immigrant Song. It had the same kind of rhythm. And it's like you can only do so much. You've just got to do the best that you can with what you've got. That's it. And just hope that you write something that connects with people. But that also goes back to like passion and energy. And it's like if it's real, then it's like that's what matters. It's the feeling behind it more than anything.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
So Matthew, I got a question for you. Okay, so I was on y'all's YouTube the other day, and for everybody, go to youtube.com at FMA 12 gauge. And 12 is 1, 2, 12.
Yep.
So it's
Gage is Gage as well. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's Callum's middle name. That's his middle name.
Nice.
That's why.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So you stated where you found out where you were diagnosed with autism, and we talked about that before. In the video, you said everything changed, but nothing changed.
Yeah.
Could you please explain to us more in that? Going like nothing has changed, but everything's changed. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's like, so I live my life. It's like, and the way I like to refer to it is it's like a twist at the end of a good film where you've seen, where everything, absolutely everything that you need to understand what's coming, you've seen and you've witnessed and you've experienced and you've been there for every single part of it. Not a single part of that has been kept secret from you. But then at one point you get told one little thing, like the butler did it or you're autistic. And then everything, then retroactively, you go from this point in time. So you've gone on one line a long time, then you get to this point in time, and then everything before that point changes. Even though it's all exactly the same, you just view it from a slightly different angle. But I think that's the best way I've got of coming up with it. It's like a really good twist at the end of a film, like Fight Club. Yeah. You find out Tyler Durden. I don't want to give any spoilers. Well, so I might not have seen it. But yeah,
it's like, 30 years. Yeah.
But it's like that because there was nothing hidden at any point. It was all sort there, but that's what I mean. Nothing changed. Everything changed, but nothing changed because reality didn't change. I didn't change. I was still the exact same person.
Right.
Yeah. It's just the knowledge that I had changed.
Yeah. In a very positive way of looking at that, because some people, like they take news of that kind of stuff in different ways, and that's a very a very positive way to look at that. I love that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I think one of the biggest telltale signs with me with my autism is the processing speed that I have. So like it takes me a long time for things to sink in. So like Prince is I think Prince was absolutely amazing, but I didn't even feel his death until a year after he died. It was like, oh, Prince has died. And then a year later, I felt a sudden like, oh, Prince has died. And it's like that. And like when a hero of mine, Rick Mail, who's a British comedian, when he died, I didn't feel anything at the time. I was like, oh, Rick's dead. That's sad. But then a year later, I felt this loss. And it's like when it came to finding out that I had autism, like the amount of time it took for me to truly come to terms with it was quite a long time. And I went through all the stages of grief. It was so crazy. I went through a stage of anger. I went through a stage of not believing it. Like it was just madness. And it was just at the end of it, it was acceptance. But one of the things that really helped me was like my creations. Like that's one thing that I've discovered over the years, because I've spent a very long time isolated because I haven't been able to communicate with people. I can talk, but when it comes to the nuances, I don't understand. And if you don't know you're autistic and you're a recovering alcoholic and you can't go out to pubs because they just make you feel uncomfortable, there's like you kind of kept. So you try and do the things that other people are doing, but it doesn't work, even though you're doing the exact same thing. But the reason it's not working is because you're not seeing all those little bits of body language and all these bits that people don't say out loud and people just tend to pick up on. So, so I spent a long time alone. And so I found during that time, I was always making things, and I found that the things that I created were things about my real life, but I didn't realize it until after I'd created them. So like I wrote a film script. I studied screenwriting at university and like finished top of my class. But the film script that I wrote was about a breakup that I'd had. And I didn't do that intentionally. But like as we create these things, we've realized, me and Callum, that you subconsciously write and create about things that are troubling you. And so like creativity is such a healthy thing to be doing. But because of the world and age that we live in, where you've got all these knobheads everywhere who just spend their lives trying to destroy other people's lives, it's a really hard thing for people to be able to find the bravery to do and share and stuff. So one of mine and Callum's like major like goals and stuff is to encourage people to create. Like, doesn't matter what you're creating. It could be a statue, it could be a story, it could be a book, it could be a picture, it could be a song, it could be anything. All that matters about that creation is that it's helping you, because you'll discover things about yourself and like learn things. But yeah, like the act of creation really helped me to come to terms with my autism and stuff. Like, because I find nearly all my stories, everything that I do is always about one person living in a flat with no friends. And it's like, it's mad. It's just mad that like that's just because I can write that character. I know that character really well.
Right. So okay, so thank you for explaining that, because I didn't know exactly what you meant. So that's awesome that you helped us understand about it.
It's okay.
So Callum, you're diagnosed with dyslexia, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so from what I gather is you have a different way of reading things. Is that correct, or am I like totally off the scale?
Yeah. Well, I don't know like all the nuances of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Really like everything, but what my mum explained to me the other day, something that she'd heard, could be completely wrong. Please, someone don't fact check me. You know, all this stuff.
I'm in the middle of fact checking you right now, Callum.
Right,
I know, I can hear you typing. But yeah, so what she said is that when you read something, when you're dyslexic, or when you like process information, you have a separate alphabet in your head. So an A is not an A. There's something in your brain that corresponds with the letter A, and when you read the letter A, you think, "Oh, that shape is that," which makes an R sound. So it isn't a letter A. The thing that with me and dyslexia, it isn't like I wouldn't say it's not all like a twist in the end of a film. I had like a very small version of that. So all the way through high school for me, I struggled a lot. It led to a lot of issues, a lot of similar things that Dad went through. But a lot of that stemmed from, we have a system in the UK where you have sets. So depending on how well you're doing at school, you could be in set one. So you know, A-star student. Oh my God, amazing.
That's the best.
Yeah. And then you could have, I think it went down to set 9, set 7, 8, and 9. Set 9 are people with like severe learning difficulties.
Yeah.
You know, needs extra special attention. And then 7 and 8 are usually reserved for people who are bad kids. or what is perceived as bad kids, people who like talk a lot, don't do homework, all that crap.
Right.
I was in set 7 to 9 all the way through high school. I was never above that, which kind of gives you this thing when you're a teenager, especially that I think as you're growing up, it kind of gives you this thing in your head where you kind of view yourself as stupid, and because that's all the things that you're getting, your teacher doesn't really care because obviously they're overworked and they're in the bad class with all the kids who are talking. Yeah.
And they're overworked
So,
and underpaid. So I mean,
yeah, exactly. On the back of that, now me, adult brain, I'm there like, God, I wouldn't do your job. I wouldn't teach me. God, leave me alone. But pretty much, yeah. So that was like my experience of high school. I couldn't read very fast. The other thing I've begun to learn now, because you learn new things about yourself all the time, is that my auditory processing, the speed at which I process information, like Dad, is a bit skewed. Like I could hear something, and in my brain it'll jumble it all up, and it'll come out as something completely different. So if I do that, sorry. But yeah, so pretty much my experience of that was all the way through high school, feeling like I was stupid, getting put in all these bottom sets with all like the bad kids, never feeling like I could really do anything. And I feel like simultaneously that's what made me write so much when I was a teenager, because I understood rap and rhyming words made sense because it was a pattern in my head. And if go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, no. So now that you said that, my next question for two is: has it ever, or does it ever affect your writing because you have dyslexia, or like does that come from natural because it's because it's rhyming words essentially?
It kind of does multiple things. First thing, my handwriting is utter shit. So anyone who tries to like steal, my lyrics, they're never going to decipher it. Half of the words are misspelled, and all of it doesn't make sense. But there's like two or three other things. The other one is obviously spelling's bad. There are some words that just don't. It's taken me ages to understand the difference between there, they are, and over there.
Oh, that's
and I absolutely hate the English language for doing that.
Yeah,
because it's like the English language turned around to every dyslexic and just went, you know what, fuck you. While you're at high school, you're going to have the worst time ever.
So
and
apparently,
English is just going to be horrible for you.
So apparently, we're the only country that does that, because every other has one word for one word. We got
they have genuine they have genuine separate words that correspond with what the word actually means.
Right.
And so there's that. But the other two like positives I think about it is that first, rhyming words in my head, it's just like literally like a puzzle. It's like words just fit. Or a word that sounds similar, it just fits. It's like I don't know how my brain does it, but it just instantly does it like all the time. When I was a teenager, I was like so fast at it. And because there was a person in my classes I remember who told me that what I should do is write a word and rhyme that word as many times as I could. So rather than do my work, I would sit at the back of the class, write a word, and see how many times I could rhyme it. That's just what I do, like every lesson. So my brain's good at that. The other thing my brain is really good at is overthinking and finding meaning in meaningless shit. So I could write something that makes complete sense to me, and it's the coolest punchline in the world, and it's so clever, and I'm so proud. And then I go running into Dad. I'm like, Dad, here, listen to this. And then he'll look at me, tilt his head, and be like, "What?" And then I'll have to explain how all of it fits together. And then even after I've explained it, he's like, "Yeah, that doesn't make sense." And I'll be like, "Oh,
yeah," because that was my next question for you. Was have you ever wrote something down like, I think this is fire
Yeah.
right here. Let me go ask, my
Yeah,
dad.
yeah, yeah.
And your
Yeah.
dad's like, oh man, that's you need to
All the time, mate. All the time. It is the most annoying thing.
But just because I don't understand it, we don't change the lyrics because if Callum understands it, they matter.
Yeah.
If I need an encyclopedia and an explanation and a PowerPoint to understand it, then that's my issue. It makes sense to Callum, but they do make sense. But he does need to explain them. Some of his lines are extremely clever and complicated, but if you don't have them explained to you, you don't really know what he's talking about.
I have said what me and Dad joke about is I really want to do a song where I do the most complicated things I can think of, and then at the end of every one, stop the song and explain it.
Yeah,
like
that would be a
bring up
funny song.
PowerPoint on like behind me.
That could be
It's
the music video.
Yeah. It's like it's a half-hour long gig, and I only play one song because I'm explaining the song.
But see, that's the cool part about music too, is what could make sense to you may not make sense to another person, but then there may be someone else who interprets it a totally different way from the way that you two did. Like, and it's so universal. It's great.
Yeah.
The entire reason, sorry, but the entire reason that I did it was, and I love doing it, and why I fell so much in love with rap is there was the first thing of like I was hearing all of these like guys who grew up in these like situations which were like alien to me, like Onyx talking about like breaking into someone's house and all this other stuff, and I'd be like, whoa, I really want to, even though it's like really bad to say, but it's like I wish I could be like that. But what I know now is like I wish I was that confident to not give a fuck and just say what I want.
Sure.
And what I think, which I do now, so that's good. And also bad for everyone else. But yeah, the other massive thing was when I was a teenager, I remember when I understood punchlines. Like when I'd hear a song 5 times and I'd listen to it over and over again because I don't know, I liked the beat, or I liked the way someone said a certain line or the chorus. And then I'd be listening to the verse, and then I'd finally figure out the punchline. And in that one moment when I was a teenager and I was being bullied at high school and I was in all these bottom sets and stuff, it felt like simultaneously like I was the cleverest person on planet Earth. And also like rapper. Yeah, it was also like, what I love is that it feels like you're friends with the rapper at that point. You understand what they've tried to tell you, and you've picked up on that.
Right.
And you're like, wow, I've uncovered this thing, and this is why it makes like tons of sense. And it's like after you do that, it's like, I don't know, someone like listening to you, or there's someone there. It's like you've connected. I've connected with an American rapper who's robbed people and openly talks about that, and I'm a skinny ginger kid from the north of England who has this accent. And in that one moment, I understand what he's saying and what he's written, and he's written it for someone like me to understand.
Sure.
And it's that connection that I will probably never meet that person and be able to say, that verse that you did for that song, I understood what you meant. But in that one moment, it's like a connection, and I found that just insane. So it's like if I put a reference into one of my raps that's like about a niche video game that I love, or about some mental thing, and a kid or someone is walking along listening to the song and they pick up on it and they're like, whoa, 12 Gauge said this thing about this thing, so that means that he played this thing and I played that and I love that. Then it's like, boom, they've got that connection in that one moment, and it's that feeling that I love.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, there we go. That's me, John.
Those too.
That was your really short answer to that question, Carl. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
goodbye.
It's so cool though. Like music does that. Like it I love Wu-Tang just as much as the next guy, but I can't relate to anything that they're talking about. I grew up in South Carolina, so like I didn't experience the same type of things that they experienced. in New York, and it's just a different type of
Provide.
yeah, like, and I can't relate to it, but at the same time, listening and diving into it, it's like, oh, like I get it. I understand what you're saying. I'm not by any means going to say that I'm right there with you, because I can't, but like,
exactly.
I get it. So the struggles, the prejudice, the, you name it, like I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing. Like, I thank rap for so much, because if it wasn't for rap, I wouldn't have half of the understanding that I do.
Yeah.
I will never experience what I've heard on songs,
Right.
but knowing that someone else has been through that gives you a level of sort of like, holy crap, there are issues beyond me. And hearing that as a teenager, when you can quickly fall into being so obsessed, and I mean that in like the most, caring way possible, because when you're a teenager and all you care about is you, that means that you find flaws in everything that you do.
Right.
And you know all that stuff. And listening to all these rappers talking about how, their friends had like tragically been shot, or how they were treated by police, or anything like this. And I started to get that understanding quite at an early age. Like, the Jewel thing was like simultaneously, prison is not a good place, which was really good for me to learn at the time that I learned it. The other one was that, there are issues outside of me, and there are issues that are bigger than me. And at the end of the day, I should feel incredibly lucky, despite the hardships that I went through and all the shit that I went through. I should feel incredibly lucky and, happy to be me, and not experience half of the stuff that I was hearing on songs. And then also the other thing is like, and they sound that cool and that confident, and they're still, making songs and doing all this stuff, even though it's shit for them.
Right.
Then I can get through this crappy day at school.
Sure.
And that was like kind of a lot of the things that rap gave me.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Are you all okay? So what other we have like 3 more questions for y'all, and then y'all can.
Can I, before we carry on, can I please go back to my Alien comment about it not being a horror film? Because it's been on my mind. Because what happened with me, I watched
your head thing. It was like, oh, yeah.
I watched Aliens first with my dad when I was 9, because that's the sort of father that I had. But it was the whole family. The whole family in the front room, and we watched Aliens, and it was terrifying. But I also, because it was all guns. It was exciting. It was such an exciting film. I thought it was scary, and I've never ever considered Aliens a horror film. And because I watched Aliens first, and then I went back to Alien, it wasn't a horror film because I knew the monster, and the horror in that film comes from not knowing the monster. Yes. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I've never ever considered it a horror film, even though when it came out, my dad said it was the scariest film he'd ever seen. Yep. It's because you can't go back to that moment in time, can you, and experience it like other people experienced it. It is a genius film. It's absolutely amazing. But like, the horror within that film was all about the keeping the aliens secret. Whereas Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's still a horrifying film now. Yeah. Whereas Alien, if you know the alien, it's not quite as frightening.
Aliens and Aliens, the second one.
Pardon?
I said, so you knew the aliens in the sequel, so that was considered a horror movie, but not yeah,
because in Aliens, well, no, because like the alien, what's terrifying about it is that it is alien. It like how it breeds, it's got acid for blood, it's this creature that you've never seen, and yet when you see the second one, they all get blasted to pieces. So it's not this indestructible creature where it is in the first one. So like going backwards, it kind of ruins it watching the second one first. Because I
agree.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel better now. Let's carry on with the podcast.
Okay. My mom had a very similar experience to that because she said that when Jaws came out, she was like a teenager, I believe, and you know, and She said that one of the scariest things about it was you didn't see the shark for the longest time. It was just you are strictly going off of the fact that people are just getting sucked into the water, and you can't really even see anything. And my mom was a big like horror movie kind of buff. One of the most like devout Christian women that's ever walked this entire loves
horror movies was good. Yeah.
Friday the 13th, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Watched all of it when I was like,
that's well cool.
She would edit it. She figured out a way to edit it to where
that's what my dad did. My dad took out the worst bits.
Like, found a way that made it safe for us to watch it, and then kind of like kickstarted all that. Meanwhile, I was like terrified of Thriller whenever I was a kid. I wouldn't watch the music video.
Me too.
Would not watch it. I was like, nope, too scared to do it. Yeah,
terrifying video when you're like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And I remember with Jaws, I used to be terrified of a bath in case Jaws came out of a plug.
Yes,
that was a genuine fear that I had.
Yep. He's gonna find a way to come up through the pipes. And
this giant shark.
Yeah,
it didn't make any sense. And then I discovered Freddy Krueger, and then there was no help for me because he got you in your dreams. So I used to sleep in the same bed as my brother, in between the walls. So the wall was there, my brother was there, and I'd sleep there. So then if Freddy came, at least I had a 50% chance he'd get my brother before me.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I was terrified of Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy was absolutely, because that's such a horrific idea and a terrifying idea. It's Freddy Krueger. That can get you in your dreams. Like there's no safety anywhere.
Well, after watching that movie for Freddy 1, I used to sleep in my mom and dad's bed, and it's like, we're tired of you sleeping there. If you could go 2 weeks without sleeping with us, you'll get a dog. And 3 weeks later, we got a dog. So I
good work.
My part, so I had one job and I nailed it.
Nice work.
Yeah. Callum, how old are you, if I might ask?
I'm 24.
Okay, so I figured me and your dad are closer to the same age. I'm 42.
Oh, I'm 43, yeah.
Okay, so you remember the Attitude Era of WWE wrestling.
Damn straight.
The best.
I'm a big wrestling fan, but it's not quite as simple as that, not like with any story. So I'll let you ask your question before I go on a ramble.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so, you missed out on like the best era ever.
Yeah.
But I found out that y'all cover or redid the song, John Cena's song, with Wrestle Talk TV.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. That's Adam Blampied, right? Blampied.
Adam Blampied is in it, but we did it with Laurie Blake. Laurie
Blake. Yeah.
Laurie Blake. Yeah. So how did all that come together? Because I know that the crew Dreadnought, and I think her name is No Tricks.
No Tricks and Dreadnought. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know that they helped you with the musical. I mean, with music access. But you and oh, I forgot his name already.
Laurie Blake.
Thank you.
You just call him whatever you want. Stephen. Call him Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen.
Okay. Yeah, y'all and Laurie Blake rewrote John Cena's theme. So how did that come together? And has John Cena contacted you about it? And,
I'm going to go first, Callum.
Please,
you talked for ages then, Callum. It's my turn.
I know I did. Hey, it was about rap.
Hey man, that's all.
So here, right, okay. There needs to be a bit more. I need to. I can't just do the explanation.
Please do what you do.
Okay, cool. Well, when I was growing up, I loved wrestling. So, like, my dad introduced me to wrestling when I was 3, and Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, when he body slammed him, that was like, what the hell? When I was 3 years old. And so I always watched it, and then I kind of fell out of love with it when I was 11. But then I got back into it when Austin and Mankind and Triple H, that magical moment, the Attitude Era, when stuff was just insane every night. And Austin, he still is the greatest. He may not be the best wrestler, but he was the greatest. Like, the crowd reaction when he came out, as soon as the glass broke, that was just immense. And even at home, you were like, yes, he's coming. Like, I don't know why. It was just like he just outdid it. Even today, like, because...
Well, see, the best thing about Stone Cold Steve Austin is he whipped his boss's ass.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he kind of.
Everybody wanted to, because everybody hates their boss sometime,
I know, but like, I didn't have a boss when he was out, so I don't know if that was what it was.
Blake,
But I
Well,
just
for me,
loved,
well,
yeah, I just loved his no nonsense. He was just like, "This is what I am. This is what I'm going to do. I don't care." It was just tough, but he was a bad guy and he was a good guy all at once, and he was just like this awesome person. But then there was like Mick Foley, who was the kindest, most lovable in Maniac, and it was like everything was just amazing at that time. It was like gold, and so I loved wrestling up until then. But then, like, it all started like dying away, and Triple H had his huge reign, and it's like, what's going on? And I kind of lost interest in it. And so I gave up on wrestling again. This goes back to music again. But then in 2017, me and Callum discovered NJPW. Are you fans of NJPW at all?
yes, I am, yes.
Oh, and it was just like a breath of, it was just like, oh my God, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember going back and it's like the Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, they all had this energy about them with the wrestling, and like that's what NJPW is. It's like it's just a pure wrestling. And so when me and Callum discovered that, like, Shibata's one of my heroes, like in 2017, and we just discovered it, and we just got so invested in it, but it's really influenced our music as NJPW, because the effort that they put into the ring and the speed that they go at, it's like, if you can reflect that when you're on stage, the audience picks up on it because you're knackered. But like, it's like, so we've really taken a lot from NJPW. So we put in every ounce of energy on stage. So like, so we really, really took influence. And I don't mean just a little bit. Like, our first album is like designed like a wrestling match. Like, if we can talk you through how it goes, like it into it, Callum. But also like how the back and forth switching in the raps goes. It's like it's just like a wrestling match. It's momentum on each side, and it's like, yeah, it's so crazy to try and explain how we see this. But yeah, so that really, really influenced us. And then when the pandemic happened and everything closed down, it was like heartbreaking. It was genuinely heartbreaking, because wrestling and computer games, because I've studied screenwriting, I know all about music, I studied creative writing. Books don't work for me anymore. I find myself studying everything that I read. If I listen to something, it needs to be spectacular for me to switch my brain off and not pay attention. If it's a film, I'm studying every shot, every line. Why did they do that? All the mistakes and stuff. So like wrestling and video games are getting destroyed by microtransactions and just all stuff. So it's only independent games that really matter. So wrestling was the very last thing that I knew I could not go out and do. And it's always like magic, and it always draws you in. And so when the pandemic came and it shut everything down, it was genuinely heartbreaking. But then New Japan mentioned that they were going to come back. They said, "We're coming back. Would you like to create a 15-second message for us online?" So me and Callum didn't believe in this idea. So Callum can apologize to me. I said, "Callum, we can write a 15-second rap, which is just amazing." And Callum's like, "What?" And so we did genuinely manage to write the world's greatest 15-second rap, and it's really cool. I'm really proud of it. And New Japan ended up using it within their show and stuff, and retweeting it. And then Will Ospreay retweeted it, Jay White retweeted it, and then Laurie Blake followed us on Twitter. And then everything went silent for a while, and we just carried on doing what we're doing. And then out of the blue one day, Laurie got in touch, and he said, "Could you guys possibly help me with a rap? Because like on the Wrestle Talk channel, they do what they call, Callum, when they get it wrong.
Punishments, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they do like punishments. I can't remember the proper name, but they do punishments. One of them has been to do cover versions of songs. And so there's been some really embarrassing, cringy ones on there. And Laurie did not want that to happen. So he came to us and he said, "Can you possibly rewrite John Cena's finger to make it cool as possible?" And so we did what he asked, and we did it as good as possible. And that's how that came about. But also we kind of brought down WWE. I'd like to think that we brought down WWE, because in our last little thing, in the end of it, we talk about Vince McMahon ruining everything and like how he's destroying everything. And then 6 months later, he's gone.
Yeah.
Bit coincidental.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. That's about.
It's true. You can check the timeline and everything. You can check the lyrics. And we even predicted Stone Cold coming back. Like
See?
that was in the
Hey,
lyrics.
coming back.
You guys
Yeah.
are prophets.
Right.
Yeah, so it was crazy. But yeah, it was crazy how we wrote it, because when we wrote about it like the roster not taking it anymore, and then Naomi and I don't know if it was Naomi, I know Sasha Banks and someone else walked out, and it's like we predicted these things. It was crazy how it was just, but yeah, so that's how that came about, and it was awesome fun, and like going into a wrestling ring and like shooting the video was just really cool.
It was a really cool day, and like actually working on it was really cool. And the other mad thing, I think, with wrestling, because like I study.
You asked if John Cena had seen it. That was the thing, and he hasn't. We tweeted him.
We tweeted at him.
And you never.
No, he was too scared to like come back.
Yeah.
He was really busy with Peacemaker, so
he was really busy.
Obviously, yeah. But
but I thought that would have been awesome if he would have replied. If we could have done something with Cena. We could have destroyed.
That would have been awesome.
Then he could have murdered us in a ring.
See, Cal, back in the Attitude Era, we were shocked about everything. We couldn't predict what matches, and nowadays, okay, he's coming out, boom, and he came out and it's like garbage now.
It was. Go on. Oh, I was going to say it was kind of like a punk show. Every Roy's War was like madness.
Yeah.
You didn't know what was going on, and just it was just amazing to watch and be emotion and stuff of like watching these people win and lose. And it's so crazy, isn't it? Because like I studied screenwriting and I love stories. So I've like proper learned how stories work. And I always find wrestling so fascinating, especially Japanese wrestling, because American wrestling tends to have all the stories about girlfriends and stuff. And it's like, you can create stories out of that. But in Japanese wrestling, we tend to just have stories which are created through wins and losses. And it's just amazing to me how by these two binary outcomes, like win or lose, you create year-long stories that get you so invested that it's just crazy. But like, it's only wins and losses and a belt, which is a prop, and yet you get so invested in it. It's just, I find it absolutely amazing. I call it combat theater because I don't like how people refer to it as fake, because those guys are damaging themselves and injuring themselves and stuff. So I really, really like the term combat theater because it kind of captures what like they're really, really doing, because it's you're being told a story which is taking genuine like effort and skill and training, and I don't know. So I could talk about this forever. I'm so sorry.
You know, I always watched. I always liked Japan wrestling better because they actually treat it like sport. Because you don't hear when they're wrestling, you don't hear a peep from the crowd. America, we're pretty dumb because we have science and cheers and all that.
Yeah.
Japan treats it like an actual sport, which it should be.
Yeah, so it's like in Japan, it's easy to believe in. Everyone knows that it's not necessarily real, but because they treat it like it's real, then it's like you watch it and you're proper drawn in. Whereas in America, you've got these silly storylines which don't really help. But then you've also got everyone leaking things all the time and telling secrets, and it's like, what are you doing? You're just ruining this like thing that should be amazing. And
it's so just it's a different art form that not everybody's into. It's just like some people. I love video games that have a great story. And I consider some video games that I've played like watching a movie and watching the story unfold or reading a book. That's just you're wrapped up in it, and that's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. And that's the same with wrestling. You're absolutely right. There's a story driven there that not everybody's going to be into, but to some people, they're very passionate about it, and they follow these stories and they keep up with it, and it's just another art form.
It is. Well, it is just an art form. It's just very frustrating. I'm going to talk over you as much as possible now, Cam. You talk far too long. So I'm just hijacking everything now. But no. So it's because we talk about wrestling, Callum. I can't help it. Right. But I really believe wrestling is an art form, and I don't think it gets the credit that it deserves, because it's just like immense. Because the thing that really annoys me, I'm sorry, I need to go down this path now. The thing that really annoys me is you've got all these people who consider film stars and films. They're like, oh yeah, I love this film, but wrestling's stupid, it's fake. And it's like, what the hell? This film, they've got 1 million takes, got special effects and stuff. Yeah, with wrestling, they're doing it there in front of you. You're hearing the chops. You're seeing them fall. You're seeing all this stuff. Yet that's treated for some reason in such a worse way than a film.
And
It's,
they're
I
doing
don't. I
it
really
live.
don't understand it. Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
the
it's like
thing.
watching. Yeah, it's like going to watch a play. It's all live. There's one take. It's not like, oh, messed up. Let's do it again. Kind of thing. Like it's all right then and there. So sometimes they have to think on their feet, and things don't go as planned, and you gotta have to work around it.
I always say when somebody tells me that wrestling fake, I'm like, you get hit by a ladder or still standing down.
Yeah.
How did that, so that makes me kind of mad. I'm like, you do what they do and see if you're okay with it. The next day.
I know. Yeah.
5 days a year, no breaks for like 10 days home.
Yeah.
Rest on.
Yeah. But me and Callum are genuinely really inspired by wrestlers. We take a lot of what they do and put it into our live shows like that. What we love. I will let you talk in a moment, Callum. I'm so sorry.
Thanks.
What we really love, like especially in New Japan, and they're starting to do it more in America now because the styles are like kind of crossing over, and there's lots of this that they're starting to like merge. But it's like the effort that you see. There's those points in matches where you can see that they're dead, yet they dig deeper and they keep going and going. And it's like seeing all that sweat, seeing that effort. It has an effect on you as a viewer. And so me and Callum try and put that into our live shows. We push ourselves to the absolute limit. When we play a gig, we don't have breaks. Every song leads into the next song, into the next song, into the next song. And the more that you do that, you create like this energy within the audience and stuff. And also on stage, we do the face and heel thing. Like I'm the bad guy. I can say whatever I want to Callum, as mean as I want, because it makes the audience get behind Callum, but that in turn makes them get behind me. So it's like there's this psychology going on as well, and it's like it's not as simple as just playing music. It's like
that's the best. That's the best thing about being a heel. You can do anything you want to. You can have to not do anything. So that's great.
Yeah. So I will now let you talk, Callum.
Thank you. So it's also really cool because like Dad said, we started watching NJPW and it was like this awesome like thing for me because I'd only seen like occasional matches from like Attitude Era or like the Austin highlight video that Dad used to have, and I used to watch that all the time because I loved watching Vince get the shit kicked out of him, and it became this thing where I didn't watch it for ages. I think the moment when I dipped back into it was the CM Punk pipe bomb. And that was only because it felt like he was actually saying everything that was wrong with WWE. But then, everything we know now with AEW and all that stuff, CM Punk doesn't seem like the best person. But but the massive thing that like wrestling propagated me, it was the effort that I should be putting in. That it's like if I'm dripping in sweat and you've not moved for this gig, I want you to feel like crap because I'm dripping in sweat for your entertainment and you've not moved an inch. That was one aspect, but the other one was like heels. Because on stage, me and Dad are heel. Like Dad's the heel, I'm the face because that's the easiest. You get behind the sun.
Yeah.
But heels gave me a really good way to view my creativity and my music because I feel like when you're a musician, especially in England, I think I'm not too sure. I've not talked to many American artists about it, but there's a massive thing in England where it's like either you're making money or you're not. And that is the binary thing that decides, are you a successful artist or are you not?
Right.
And it's really easy, I think, for people to either look at it like, yeah, I've made money, I'm the best thing that's ever happened, or B, look at it like I'm not making money, so I'm just a shit musician then. And heels in wrestling gave me a way of viewing what I create. Like that intro that you gave for us and like listed all of that shit. I think it'd be very easy for me as a kid and a teenager who was told he could never be a rapper to look at that list and be like, you know what, fuck you, I'm the best thing that's ever happened.
Right.
And it'd be really easy, I think, to fall into that state of looking at things and think, I don't have to try because I've already proved everything. And the way that heels are, it taught me that, yeah, I should view it like I am good. I am great in my own opinion.
Right.
Because realistically, at the end of the day, you're the only one who's got your own back.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're the only one who's in your own corner. So
Right.
it's like I will walk around and say I think I'm a great rapper because I write the stuff I want to listen to.
Right.
And
yeah,
but
because
then it's also it's the flip of it is like, yeah, that doesn't mean I'm gonna do the fucking full on heel shit of like at your gig when you're on stage, I'm gonna be stood there like I'm better than you. Give me the mic. I'm gonna run up and like fucking give you a low blow on stage. Yeah, give me the mic.
I think. Go
yeah.
on, Callum.
Well,
can I go?
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things that wrestling's really taught us, like, especially from promos, like how Austin talks, like how any of them talk. There's a special way of talking. And so that's also replicated on stage. It's like you show no weakness. You build yourself up. You build up this thing. It becomes bigger than, it's like larger than life. And so we've really taken on that FMA is Matthew Bennett, but he's this character that I've created, the one that was built from years of pain and years of isolation. And that's also the story of Matthew Bennett, but it's exaggerated to a point where it's like this maniac on stage, this person dripping in sweat, this person screaming, this 43-year-old man who should not be doing these things on stage, who's outperforming people half his age. Do you see what I mean? It all builds like that. And that's real. I think that's what Callum's talking about when he says he's the greatest rapper. It's that arrogance that comes from wrestlers. You have to say that, because if you don't say that, you are weak. That character is weak, and you need to be viewed as strong all the time. So we've really hijacked this question now, Callum. But go on.
I know. Yeah, I've got another thing. No, I think I also think like a kind of a tangent off of that is it's like a lesson that like I really want to more not more than like kind of up there with everyone should be creative. I think everyone who is creative in any sense, you should be your own greatest fan. You shouldn't just sit there and endlessly like listening to Eminem and like comparing yourself to that. You're not Eminem, you're you. And you should enjoy what you do. And that's what I mean by I am the greatest rapper, because I'm me. I technically, like, I mean, like, someone else can love someone else. They will have their own greatest rapper. But for me, I am, because it's like I had this thought the other day where I was walking along and I was like, what would Tupac think of himself?
Yeah, right.
He wouldn't walk along and be like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of an alright rapper. It's Tupac. He'd walk along and be like, I'm the greatest thing that ever walked on the planet. Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a way of doing that and still being humble about it. I think it's finding that line that you're not arrogant. You understand everyone has their own creative voice and you can never be like anyone else. Right. But that also means that your individualism makes you stronger and you should be really proud of it. It's like I used to hate the fact that I had a northern accent, and anytime I'd hear myself on an interview, I'd be like, "Oh God, I sound so English."
How do you think I feel?
Oh God,
I sound like a hick. Like, go back and listen to these, and I'm like, that's how I feel. Like,
oh, what's going on, bro?
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to. I know exactly.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, it's that thing where now I think I've grown older and I've watched all these wrestlers and like Will Ospreay going in the ring and like saying the most British swear words and being the most British thing I've ever seen in a ring. Him and Zack Sabre Jr. And I was like, yeah, I've got nothing. Like, I'm just me and I can't change that. So I may as well be proud of it, and I may as well be proud of the things that I can do that I know that other people can't do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I walk along and I'm there like, yeah, I'm better than you because of that. It just means to have that arrogance of a heel where it's like, yeah I'm proud of that.
I'm the best me that I can be.
yeah, I'm the
Right.
best me that I can be.
And I think that's a really, I think that's a good like message to anyone with anything. If you're, whatever art form, or even if it's not even an art, just anything in general, like it's
Yeah.
good to be your toughest critic, but at the same time, you need to be your biggest fan.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
That's what I was gonna say, because you gotta be your biggest fan sometimes. Because I have depression, and even though I might get like 20, hey man, you're awesome. I love your stuff. This thing
Yeah.
inside my head says, no, you're not. You're
yeah.
Yeah.
and you gotta say no. I'm gonna punch you in the
Yeah.
head, and I'm gonna go. Yeah, so you gotta be your biggest fan at the end of the day, no matter what.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
battle. It can be a genuine battle, combat.
So that,
Yeah,
yeah.
but you need to weigh it up because there's that evil voice, the one which just draws you down and like reminds you of everything bad and tells you how awful you are. But you
Right.
need to create that voice which is like, I'm proud of that. I really did well there. I did that. And it needs to be balanced, and that's like the hard thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do have two more questions. I know I said that like way back when, but
I know each one of these is going to take
Don't
an
worry.
hour.
Don't
This is going to be
worry.
the longest
Sorry, mate.
episode in the world.
I love this. I love this. Okay, so with 4 singles, what EP and what album in your catalog? Uh, was there any song that was like so hard to write that you're like, this won't work, but you kind of finagle with it sometimes, and like, okay, this is like the greatest thing, the greatest thing ever. And
I think we're both going to have separate answers here.
Yeah.
But the 4 singles that we're releasing right now, it doesn't seem like it right now, but they are part of a bigger project. It's just this project is huge, so we can't do it all in one go. But as time passes, it will become more obvious what is going on because we've got an idea. That's all I'm going to say. But one of the songs to come took me 9 months to write. I mean, it might be 9 months or maybe longer, but it took
It was longer.
90 pages of notes, which were then refined into another 90 pages. I don't know. This thing was insane, this song. I hated it. It was genuinely frustrating and hard work. And the reason it was such hard work is because the album that we are releasing bit by bit is I can't really say anything, can I, Callum?
I'll go.
Hold on.
I'll
There
go.
is an
Stop.
arc. No, just let me say there is an arc to it. And so it held a specific place within the album. But that it's called The Machine. It's going to be months and months before it's out. But I've never written a song which has driven me so mad, left me so drained, had so many variations and gone through so many changes. Spectrum was hard work, our charity song. That only took 3 months on. We both worked on that. But this song, The Machine, was mainly mine. And I've never, when it was, I don't know, it was kind of a blur, was that song. Like, it hurt my head, did that song.
Yeah. For me, I also wasn't being just like, Dad, stop talking. Because also I know how much we both love this upcoming album and how we both are really struggling at the moment with not turning around to people and being like, this is the thing. And us being like, this is why we're so proud. Yeah, but anyway, I would say the hardest thing that I've had to write is everything I've had to write with FMA. Because guaranteed, this is usually how it'll go, is it'll be like, okay, for instance, that like 15-second rap that we wrote for NJPW. I walked downstairs one day and Dad's just stood there and he's like, Callum, I've heard about this thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to write the world's greatest 15-second rap. And then that is the pitch that I get.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, all right, Dad. Okay. And then there's been, what is it? There was also when we did the Laurie Blake song, the pitch was, Callum, we're going to write the best wrestling parody song that we've ever written.
Don't want to write the third best.
Well, I do, I get it, but
it doesn't need to be up here. It's kind of like right here.
I think that a lot of things have been difficult for a lot of different reasons. I'd say that because of how early this began, like I was 15 when FMA and 12 gauge started. So almost a decade this band has been going for now. But it's had like I genuinely see it as like I've had like a character arc throughout everything that we've made, and you can genuinely pinpoint it. So it's
Right.
like our very first things, I was getting used to my own voice. You can obviously tell that I'm 15 years old. And then our first album, I'm like 18 years old. And I've kind of gotten a bit more to grips with my voice, but I'm a teenager and I had like my first long-term committed relationship during that album. And, you know, I could go and get beer and stuff like that. So I'm a lot of that first album, I didn't understand the commitment you had to make when it was creating something. A lot of that was FMA and Dad like picking up the pieces of a teenage me that was like, Dad, I want to go and chill out with my mates. Don't want to work on my rap album. God, yeah. But and then you know we released another EP like the Takeover, and you can hear my development through that, how I've started rhyming stuff. And then with this new one, I think genuinely this new album, not only technically writing wise, it's been incredibly difficult, as I'm sure anyone can hear through the first 4 songs we've released from it. Or is it 3?
3 songs, I think, at the
3
minute.
songs. The first 3 songs that we've released from it, you can hopefully people can hear how much I've developed and how much everything's progressed. But also, like I was saying before about rap, when I was during the first album and during the beginning of this, I was rapping to prove that I could rap.
Yeah.
To all the people who said that I couldn't do it. And then it kind of felt like really weirdly after the first album, after Parental Advisory, it felt weirdly like, well, I've proven it now.
Yeah.
What is there left then? If that was my sole purpose, all I'm doing is rapping about how I can rap. And there's nothing more. It doesn't go beyond that. And during this album, I had to, I think, be incredibly personal. For me, at least, I had to open up to a point. Like I talked about, like trauma and things that I had never really rapped about before, like that first long-term relationship ending because I wanted to create stuff and it just didn't fit in, and then writing about that and finding a way that I was comfortable and like feeling open, because it's very weird, because I think starting out as a teenager and just rapping about rap and how I can rap, it left me very sort of like, I wouldn't say limited, but I didn't feel comfortable being completely open in songs. But then that was what I started off doing when I was writing in the back room of my mum's house and writing about how people bullied me and how it made me upset. So I kind of see it as this is like the most difficult things, and it's not through the technical aspect. Like I can sit there and rhyme words to a beat, until I don't know the world ends. But to actually like find a way where I am comfortable talking about something and being like, okay, because a very big difficulty which I've had throughout FMA and 12 gauge is that literally, so from 15 years old, I've been in FMA and 12 gauge. And that has meant that there is 12 gauge like this character, like Dad was saying about FMA when he's on stage. So there is this character and this heightened version of myself when I'm on stage.
Right.
And then there's all of that, crap that Dad was talking about, like confidence issues, all this other stuff, which I've now learned to just push to the side when I'm on stage.
Right.
But when it comes to like songs and like, getting to that really deep shit that, it could help people or people could connect with, I had this very defined barrier of like, nope, that's Callum's shit. And you get 12 gauges shit. 12 gauge is great all the time. You don't get Callum shit. And I think this new album is definitely, it has been difficult as me learning to just let people in as much as I'm comfortable with letting them in. And
Nice.
that was my very long-winded way of answering a question.
We're now, it took us a year to write the lyrics, and now we're in the second year of working on it. So, like, it's big is this thing that we've been doing. So, hopefully, one day it'll be finished.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
It's so cool, like, to hear you guys talk about, like, the, you know, how long you guys have been doing this, and you know, you're 15, and you know, music is like a really cool, like, time capsule in a lot of ways. And you know, and you hear, like, I've heard bands talk about albums that they released 20 years ago, and they're like, you know, we're not the same people that we were back then, and they want to, like, write it off, like they never, like, they don't want any kind of association with it. Like, yeah, but 20 years ago, that album meant a lot to me, and it helped me get through some really tough
just like Paramore. You know, they got rid of the song Misery, just brought it back.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
and then brought it back, right?
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, I don't know what y'all are doing, but yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, there could be another, like, 15-year-old, but, you know, now that you're not 15, but there could be another 15-year-old today that could hear that and be like, I relate to that, and that speaks volumes to me. And you know, it's cool. Like, I love to see it. I love to see how music, like, as musicians, like, evolve, kind of as their music evolves and matures with them too, and just can turn into such a cool thing, and just life experiences.
It's like I love it now. Like, looking back and hearing all that stuff of like me and my really nasally voice and being like, yeah, it's me, 12 gauge, woo. But all that stuff, which at the time when I first recorded it, and I was like, oh God, I'm so like, oh God, no, don't play that for me. Like, now I listen back to it and I'm like, wow, there is actual documented things of me when I was 15 and even earlier than 15. And I think it also weirdly ties into the wrestling thing of, like, because I do screenwriting too, like Dad did at university, and I'm in a master's course now doing it. But I see there being a very weird thing with artists where I see them almost like characters, and I see that as myself as well. So it's like 12 gauge as a character, he has an arc, and things have affected him, and he has changed because of those things. So it's he started off rapping with his dad, and he fucking loved it because it was his dad and his superhero at the time. And then you know, he grows up a bit and starts to realize, hold on, everyone's a person and everyone has their own difficulties. And working with this guy is sometimes very annoying in the best way possible. And then it becomes like, oh my God. And now it's like, oh wait, but now it seems like a job because I've got, you know, friends, and I can go buy beer, and I can, you know, I've got a girlfriend and I want to do other things, and this is becoming a job. And then now it's got to this thing where it's like, yeah, it's just me, and this is just how I do it. And then there's the other character stuff, but it's like, that's how I genuinely view it, is that you have a documented story there with me that you can listen to. Like, the thing I always said to people about this new album, because people came up to me, like my friends and stuff, and then I was telling them about it in the most hushed, controlled way possible to not reveal anything. But I was like, oh my God, mate, it just kicks the crap out of the last album. It's fucking amazing. and then they'd all turn around to me and be like, be careful about what you're saying, you know, you don't know. And then there's that part of me where I'm like, but I'm 24 now. Like, I am an adult. Oh, that felt weird. I am an adult. And,
almost,
almost, kind of.
Right.
But yeah, and it's that thing of like, there has been time that has passed, and I have learned things, and we have both learned things. And I always said it to them as like, FMA, in my opinion, is fucking amazing and a genius at what he does. But he's got there. He knows what he's good at, and he knows what he can do, and he's fucking good at doing it. This is like my 9th year of discovering what I'm good at.
And
what I do really well. And that was how I described it to people, and that's what I think people will be able to hear in this new album.
Well, see, like I said, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta be your own biggest fan, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, voices will be a good thing and a bad thing. So
Mm.
I wonder
Oh
how
yeah.
I wonder how Randy Orton deals with it.
Yes.
Uh, back when he's like, yeah, but we do have one more quick question for you, and I'm gonna let Mr. Blake ask that for you because this is a question we ask all of our guests anytime
Yeah.
they come on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so the title of this entire podcast that we do is called When Words Fail, Music Speaks. So is there anything that you guys listen to that if there is no way that you could express how it makes you feel, if you're having a day where you're down in the dumps and you can put on an album or a song that can lift your spirits or either speaks to you in a certain way, and you find a very hard time of describing to other people, but you can say, listen to this and you'll understand where I'm at. Is there anything like that kind of jumps out at you guys?
Do you want to go first, FMA? I've got to quickly search something because I forgot the name of the.
No, I don't want to go first.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I've talked for ages, Dan. You really want to talk?
How dare you say that to me? Right?
Right.
Okay, so I will tell you all that this is the hardest question. So y'all are not, I mean,
It's so funny because this is usually the reaction that we get whenever
Right.
we
So what mood? What mood is it?
whatever.
Bad day. Bad day. Or
Bad day is usually where it stems
it's not the
from.
most,
But
yeah. Right.
yeah,
because there are all, I think with my autism comes some synesthesia, which means my senses are a little mixed up. So
Mhm.
certain pieces of music can give me feelings like unlike anything else. But so it all depends on what mood you're after. So for example, the first Pokemon movie, the battle scene between Bulbasaur and Charizard or whatever, the music that plays there gives me goosebumps. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's exciting music. That's like, I feel alive when that music's playing. But
Right.
then if I need to feel, because it's a lot of the time, it's not words that matter to me, it's the music, music more than anything. And it's like, also for Rocky 4, the Rocky 4 soundtrack, but not in the film, only on the album.
Okay.
War. It's a song called War, and there's
Okay.
a middle bit where it's just like it's just so perfectly crafted, and it lifts you up and it brings you down, and it like it keeps thinking it's going to break, the like waves are going to break, and it's suddenly going to crash, and it never does, and it's such a masterful piece of music. The very very middle of it that it's just like unlike anything else. It's a real like it's absolutely incredible. But like if it was sad music, I don't know. Because it's not like a song. No songs stand out because all songs are too specific. So the only thing that's coming into my head is music. It's pieces of music that affect me at different times. And that while I think of a complete piece of music, I will pass it over to Callum.
Yeah. So so I had to find the name of the song, but there was a song which I listened to as a teenager. One of my favorite artists of all time is an English kind of rapper called The Streets. He's got a really English accent, and a lot of the time it is really relatable. He's talking about going down a pub or having issues with your girlfriend. It isn't like mental things. And when I was a teenager and I was listening to like gangster rap and Eminem and all these like outlandish characters and being like, how the hell did you go through that? Oh my God. And like for a period of time, it almost made me quit because I was like, I can never do this. I can never be that. And then my mum bought me, well, she just bought randomly because she probably heard a song on the radio. She bought one of the Streets albums, A Grand Don't Come for Free. The whole album, it's like a continuous story, and it's literally about him losing £1,000 down the back of his TV.
Oh.
And it's like that is literally it. He's like he breaks up with his girlfriend, he takes like too many drugs at a club, and it's like so mundane
Mm-hmm.
when you're like from England, and it's like, yeah, I can do whatever I want. I can, I can be a rapper. If there's a guy out there who's making really cool songs and he's just rapping about going and like to the corner shop and doing all of these really mundane things, but he's making really good songs out of it, then I can do it. But
Yeah.
he had an album called Everything Is Borrowed, and that's like his third album. And pretty much there's a song on there called On the Edge of a Cliff. And it's the chorus of it, it goes something like, what was it? Since the onset of time, every single person in no, every single one of your ancestors survived. Every single person on your mum and dad's side successfully looked after and passed on to you life. Now, what are the chances of that like? And
Yeah.
I heard that when I was a teenager, and that song made me like think of like, even though I was in like really dark places and I was doing really stupid shit, it made me think about like, yeah, what are the chances that it'd be me?
Right.
And what are the chances that dad and my mum would have made me, and that their parents would have made them to make me?
Right.
And it's one of those songs, and I would say that song is what I'd listen to
Yeah.
if it ever was like the lowest of low days. Because like dad said, like I've heard so much music now, there's so much random crap in my
Yeah.
head. But it's like I could literally wake up one day and be like, you know what, I'm really sad, I want to listen to Onyx shout at people. Or I could be like, oh, I'm really sad, I want to listen to Kate Bush,
Yeah.
or something like that. But I think I would always go back to the streets and that one song.
Yeah.
So it would always find a way to get back there.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
Matt,
my
did you think of your
I don't know, cause like I don't. My relationship with music is a bit different because like I don't know. I love things which take you on journeys and tell stories and stuff. So I like things that begin as one thing and then end as another thing. So I'm a really big fan of albums, not songs. Do you know what I mean? Because the songs are just the bricks that build the album. And I think that's a real sad thing nowadays that albums are vanishing. And so it's like, yeah, I love one of my favouriteest ever bands that I mentioned earlier was a prog rock band from the 80s called Marillion. But how they could take you on a journey like which was 7 minutes long and go from one place to another, like completely with no choruses or anything, and just like this journey of sound. That's the sort of stuff that like speaks to me more than anything else. Starting in one place and going on this entire journey and ending up in a completely different place. They have a song to Marillion. I can't remember what its name is. It's not one of my favorites, but I love it because you start listening to the song and it's just like basic, just maybe a synth and vocals. And at no point do you realize that other instruments are joining, but by the end of it, it's this huge, everyone's there, but all the music's there, the drums are there, and it's just massive. And at no point during the journey do you really notice anything else coming in. And that's what I really love. And that's the sort of things that bring me comfort, like soundscapes that like you start out massive and then they slowly disappear until there's just one instrument left. I find stuff like that affects me a lot more than the words that people say. Because when someone's singing a song, they're singing about them. They're not singing about me. They're not, it's not, I felt so alienated throughout my life, and I find it very hard to identify with people who rap or sing or do all these things because it's like I haven't lived that. That's not the life that I've lived. But within these sounds, I find that they tell so many stories like that, like starting in one place and ending in a completely different place. I find stuff like that absolutely mesmerizing and like awesome. And so, if someone were to ask me to find like something that explains how I feel, it would be probably be just a piece of music but took you on a real genuine journey because that's telling a story. It's like, yeah, you can get all these sounds and all this brilliance and then it can all just fade away and just have one sound left, and the loneliness that creates is just immense. So I can't find I don't have any specific ones in mind, but that's the sort of thing that if someone asked me to explain how I felt and I was feeling bad, that's the sort of thing I would say. Listen to this 400-minute piece of music. And at the end of it, you'll understand how I feel.
Yeah. I
See,
love that.
that's why this question is so hard to answer because
Yeah.
what am I gonna say? You know, because
Yeah.
just like you, I mean, you have like 4 million songs in here that there's something different. Well,
Yeah.
that's beautifully put. Yeah, so thank you all for that.
Thank you.
Right.
And thank you for asking a question. That was a really cool question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So for all of our listeners, you can find FMA plus 12 gauge at FMA 12gauge.bandcamp.com if you want to go to their website and purchase their John Cena I guess
Yes.
promo.
It's our battle. It's our battle cry to John Cena, and he's not answered it, the pussy.
Yeah, come on. He's not busy with James Gunn anymore. Like,
no, he's not. What the hell is he doing? There's two
see?
British people who want to battle him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Have me a
also
rap battle,
12,
John.
yeah, 12 gauge is spelled Gage.
And then
the name.
And that's 1, 2, 12. The numbers
1, 2 Gage. The reason, can I explain where it comes from?
Yes, please.
Because I wanted to call Callum Gage when he was little after the kid in Stephen King's Pet Cemetery.
Yes.
Yes, that's Gage. And know what? Right, and when his mum went into labour, she just named him after the ward that they were on, which was Callum. So Gage got put as his middle name, Callum Gage Bennett. Whereas, if it had been called Gage, no one else would be called Gage, and he'd be so individual right now.
Okay,
but you're not. You're just like everyone else, Callum.
Okay, right. I will voice to defend my mum. No, from you, Dad.
Yes.
So yeah, what my mum says is that my dad decided while my mum was pregnant to show her Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
While she is pregnant, and say, "Oh yeah, there's this movie. I really want to name our baby after a character in this movie." And she's like, "Okay, yeah." And then he proceeds to show her a movie about a 2-year-old coming back to life and killing its parents.
Yeah,
and
but he's so cute.
And then he's like, "I want to call him after this 2-year-old that's come back to kill her parents." And then on the flip side of it, when I'm 2 years old, there's like photos of me at like 2. I look like Gage from Pet Cemetery. Like he's like the long-haired, like ginger kid.
Yeah,
and I look like him when he's come back from the dead.
Callum, you'd be so individual, boy, if you were called Gage.
I would be right now. I don't want to imagine high school, but I would be right now. So, you know.
Well, see, now he can say, "Hey, man, I'm going to get called Gage now."
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I did that with my name, because my name's James Andrew, and my mom used to call everybody used to call me Andy. Hated that name. So when I moved to Columbia, I'm like, I'm James now, and my mom can't stand the name James, but my dad named me it. So my dad won the naming war. So
good. That's good.
Quick side note for any horror movie like fanatics out there that also love music and metal and stuff. Have you guys heard of the band Ice Nine Kills?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so they're a newer metalcore band, but they, their last 2 albums are all their songs are based off of horror movies.
Cool.
On the latest album, they have a song called Funeral Derangements, and it's based on Pet Cemetery. So,
cool.
The music video.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's great. It's a great song. In the music video, they kind of recreate the movie, right? And for the scene where the trucker is coming down the road, the kid that played Gage is the trucker in the music video.
That's
cool.
cool.
I found that out recently, and I was like, "No way, you gotta be kidding me!" So,
that's awesome.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's very impressive.
And all the music videos are connected. There's a intertwining story.
That's even cooler.
It's really cool. Go check it out.
Awesome.
Ice Nine Killer. What did you
Ice
call
Nine
that?
Kills.
Ice Nine Kills.
Ice Nine Kills. Yeah.
I will write that down.
Yeah, it's so cool.
For anybody else listening, you can contact them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook under FMA 12 number 1 2 GAD. So
Yes.
Thank you all
Yeah.
so much again for coming on the show. This was a pleasure.
No, thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you so much.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting, and your questions were absolutely amazing. And if you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
reach out to John Cena, please send him my way.
I'll see what I can do.
Definitely.
Yeah, so until next time, when words fail, music speaks. Bye,
Speaks.
guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Great.